in particular the Fitzgeralds and Mrs. O'Connor, for being here. Your stories are tragic, and we share your grief. I love the city of Philadelphia. I love to come here and visit. The history is amazing, and my kids love it. We came up here and got to tour around. We tried to go to a pizza place up in Callow Hill, crossed under the convention center, and that was a wrong turn because we saw some tragic individuals underneath that tunnel, and we want to come back here. I told my kids I was coming up here for a hearing, and they looked and said, "Daddy, don't go back to the convention center," because they remember what they saw here. So there is greatness in your city, but there's also crisis in your city. And the crisis comes as a result of the budget that Mr. Biggs put in the record, which in 2021, I'm just going to read it. To address fiscal challenges and issues with equity in law enforcement, the Philadelphia Police Department's budget was reduced by $33 million. That had a real impact. When Chairman Jordan asked how short on officers are they, well, I got on Google, and it says in a force of 6,500 at the beginning of this year, they were short about 1,000. And over 100 retired on January 1st of this year. Over the next 2 years, another 600 are scheduled to retire. There is a crisis in confidence among law enforcement. And that is having a real impact on crime in Philadelphia. Over the last year, property crimes, including retail theft and carjackings, have risen by more than 15%. Retail theft has increased by almost 28%, while vehicle theft has skyrocketed by 72%. And that comes from this district attorney that refuses to prosecute. Mrs. O'Connor, I wanted to ask you in particular about when you mentioned in your testimony about the 4 men involved in your husband's shooting, at least 2 had prior convictions for violent crimes, including murder, and at least 2 had lenient sentences and were out on bail or parole. Can you just go into detail a little bit on that and what that does to crime in the city?
It's again, I wish I had the time to go through and pull up all 4 of their prior arrests. It's these guys there was one over 21, the rest were under 19, 18 years old. And just the amount of, I guess it starts with the gun charges that they were arrested for. And to be let out on that, well, why? You know, you commit a crime, you should be in jail, you should stay there. And to be let out, and then to find out, like I said, the main shooter, 5 names he wrote on that wall in prison cell, proudly, very proudly. I mean, 19 years old, it doesn't make any, at the time of the case, my daughter was 19. I'm like, this woman's in the Air Force trying to get her, life together and figure it out. Or she could have sat home and just shot people and sell drugs and got away with it for how many years? This just didn't need to happen, and it's continuing to happen. And, the low bail is what brings people out. And this is why I said federally, thank God that this job is not in Larry Krasner's hands. I would totally believe that at least 1 to 2, maybe 3 of them would be out by now. And and there's so much, the crime is just out of control. And I get really emotional talking about it because Jim should still be here.
It is, and he should still be here. And in fact, they're trying to take more away from Mr. Krasner. I'm noticing that the governor just signed Act 40 into law in the final months last year to allow the state's attorney general to appoint a special prosecutor on any crime that occurs within 500 yards of a SEPTA property in Philadelphia. It allows the special prosecutor to intervene in all such cases through 2026, which is when Krasner's current term would end. So hopefully they're going to be able to take more away from Krasner so that he won't be able to dismiss and ignore the crimes that are occurring across this city. Mr. Pichetto, in my final seconds, I wanted to ask you about the attempted impeachment of Mr. Krasner. he was successfully impeached in the House, and then he sued to block it, the trial in the Senate. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
And can you talk about the effort that you undertook and how it seems that it was thrown out by a single judge, and what that does to Mr. Krasner's, I don't know, willingness, as it were? Is he just going to be encouraged by that to continue to try and ignore more crime in the city?
I think he is, and you know, it was even worse than that. What happened was in the September-October terms of the 2022 House Republicans impeached Larry Krasner. And just like in the federal model, in the state model here in Pennsylvania, from there it goes to a trial in the Senate. Unfortunately, the House changed control in the November 2022 elections, and they lost 13 sitting Republicans, converted to Democratic control. And as soon as that happened, they fired the House manager of the impeachment process, who had engaged me. So we were essentially shut down by politics and never had the chance to really present the case to the Senate. And then, as you point out, thereafter, Mr. Krasner presented a petition to a Democratic judge who, in I believe a partisan way, interrupted the process. And the impeachment is now in mothballs. But, you know, I wish to point out one of the biggest issues in the Krasner impeachment has nothing to do with whether crime is rising or crime is going down or that type of thing. It's the manner in which he disregards victims of crime. Victims have state and federal rights. And most recently, Larry Krasner was held in contempt of court in federal proceedings, where he directly lied to the court about consulting with victim crime families in implementing reductions in sentences. It was a direct lie. He was called out on it. It was confirmed in the Third Circuit. It's an act of misconduct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to just thank all of the witnesses for being here. I was born in Philadelphia. My father, his entire family's from Philadelphia.